Hi, this is Karen with Karen's Cards and More, and today I have a really neat fun fold that I want to share with you today featuring the Flowering Fields Suite. I've been wanting to do a card where I can use this windmill. I love this windmill, so today's card, that was my goal. I wanted to use this die cut windmill that comes in that suite. So let's look at the card. So I have a belly band on the front to hold it closed because it is a little bulky. So I'm going to pull off the belly band. And this is a double trifold. And most of the work is the designer series paper. I did a little bit, I wanted to do something where I die cut these instead of stamping the tulips. I wanted to show you how to put those together. So I did that. And then on the back, I did just a little, and I noticed I've got this upside down. We'll fix that in the video today, but I put a piece on the back where you could sign. So this just goes inside here. And you just got to hold all the layers together when you slide that on. It just goes like that. And I've got this on with a brad. Blades of the windmill do turn. Now you have to be gentle with them, and I wouldn't recommend just trying to spin it. But that's the card that we're going to make for today. So I'm going to go through all the measurements as I show you what we're going to use, but I will put those in the description below the video. So there's 2 stamp sets and 2 die sets that come in this suite, and we're going to be using some of both. So we're going to be using the flowering tulips. We're going to use the stamp from here, Just Thinking of You. Let me make sure that's, yeah, that's the sentiment. I was making sure that's the sentiment that I stamped. We're going to use that, and then we're going to use these 2 to make the tulip bud type thing. And then for the die cuts, you're going to need, so there's 3 parts to the tulip. This one with this weird kind of hook shape on it, and then this is the piece behind that, and then this is the little center piece. So these are the pieces that you're going to need to make the tulips, and you're going to make 2. We're going to do 2 of each. And then you're going to need 2 of this curvy stem, and 1 big leaf and 1 little leaf, okay? And then out of the Tulip Fields die set, we're not going to use any stamps, but we are going to use the windmill pieces. So you want the outline window piece, and then you want the detail, or windmill piece, and then the detailed windmill piece, and then the blades. So 3 pieces from here that you're going to die cut. Now you can change up the colors. I did mine. I did rum cake for the base of it, and then I did early espresso for the detail. I used black for the blades because I had black brads. And then for the tulips, on the back of this pattern of designer series paper that also comes in this suite, there is this like variegated purples. So on the darker side, I cut the larger piece that I showed you for the tulips, and I'll show you how that goes together. And then I cut the medium piece out of here. And then on the back of one of the pieces, there is a variegated pink, and that's what I cut the little bud out of. Okay, so I'm going to move all this out of the way. And I'm going to bring in the pieces that we're going to need. So my card base, I started with rich razzleberry. And you're going to need a piece that is 12 by 6. So if you have 12 by 12 and cut it in half, you can make 2 of these cards. And I'm going to show you the scoring and the additional cutting that we need to do on this piece. Then you're also going to need a piece that is 8 by 2, and we're going to do some scoring on this. This is our belly band. And then you're going to need 2 more pieces of rich razzleberry that are 2 7/8. No, these are 6 by 2, and these are going to be the front panels. 6 by 2, And you'll need 2 more pieces that's going to go on the belly band. And these are 2 by 7/8 by 2 7/8 square. And that's going to form the base that our windmill is going to be on the front of the card. Okay? And then we're also going to use Highland heather. So you're going to need 2 squares that are 3 7/8 by 3 7/8, and these are going to be what our white pieces are going to sit on for the back of the card and the inside of the card. Then you're going to need 2 pieces that are 5 7/8 by 1 7/8. Then you're going to need 2 pieces that are 1 7/8 by 7/8. You're going to need a square that is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. And then you're going to need 6 of these rectangles, and these are 1 7/8 by 7/8. And you're going to need 8 little squares that are 7/8 by 7/8. So 6 of the rectangles that are 1 7/8 by 7/8, and 8 of the squares that are 7/8 by 7/8. Then you're going to need designer series paper. Now these are the 2 panels that are going to go on the front, the long panels. This is what I used for these. And these are 5 3/4 by 1 3/4. Then you're going to need a piece for the belly band, and this is 8 by 1 7/8. And these are on the inside panel, and these are 3 3/4 by 1 3/4. Now these 2 pieces, I wanted to pull in something that would have some purple but wouldn't be real busy because of all the tulips and the other pieces that I'm using. So this design, actually, this is the other side of it. This comes in the Friendly Hello paper that is in the Celebration catalog. Then you're going to need 6 pieces that are 1 3/4 by 3/4. And you're going to need 8 pieces that are 3 3/4 by 3 3/4, little squares. And so we're going to see how those go together. And then you're going to need 2 pieces of basic white that are 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 square. Okay? And like I said, I will put all these measurements in the description below so that you didn't have to write all those down as we go. So let's start with our card base, because we need to do some additional cutting and scoring on this. And we're going to start with the additional cutting. I'm going to bring in my trimmer. Remember, the darker blade is your cutting blade, and the lighter blade is your scoring blade. So we're going to be starting with our cutting blade. I hope this is all in the camera so that you can see. And we're going to put this in so that we're at the 1 inch mark. We've got the short side at the top, and I'm lining it up on the 1 inch. Just like that. And there's a line all the way down that helps you make sure it's straight. You want to make sure it's straight across the top and straight on that line. Then we're going to start cutting. And this is one thing with dark paper. It's hard to see the numbers on the side, but we want to cut from 1 inch down to 5 inch. And then I'm going to lift it, and we're going to cut from 7 inches down to 11 inches. Okay, maybe if I flip it like this, I can get the whole thing in the camera. So then I'm going to flip it the other way. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to line it up on the 1 inch, just like that. Bring my blade back up. And I'm going to cut from, that doesn't work because that means my head is going to be in the camera if I try to do that. So I'm going to get it set at the 1-inch mark, and I'm going to cut down to the 5-inch mark. And then I'm going to pick that up, and I'm going to bring this down, and I'm going to start at the 7-inch, and I'm going to cut down to the 11-inch. And that's going to make our fold, that's going to help us do the trifold. Then I'm going to put that blade out of the way. Then we need to do some scoring. So we're going to put the long side at the top, and we're going to do a score at 2 inches all the way from top to bottom of the piece. And then we're going to go to 4 inches again all the way. Then we're going to go to 8 inches. All the way. And then we're going to go to 10 inches. Just like that. Now, the next scoring, we're only going to do from the top down to the cut line. So you don't want to go all the way down. You just want to do it down to the cut line, then we'll flip it and do the other side. Okay? So we're going to start with 1 inch. We're just going down to that cut line. And then we're going to go over to 5 inches. And then we're going to go to 7 inches. Bring this down just a little bit to make sure that it's in the camera. And then we're going to go to 9 inches. No, we're going to go to 11 inches. Okay, so we're going to flip it to the other side, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to score at 1 inch, and we're just going down to the cut mark just like before. 1 inch. 5 inches. 7 inches. And 11 inches. Just going to that cut line. Okay, now before we do the scoring on the belly band, I want to put the two pieces together and then we'll score it together. So I'm going to bring in my Rich Razzleberry 8x2 piece and then my Designer Series paper that gets layered on that. So we're going to go ahead and glue this together, and I'm just using liquid glue. So we're just going to put this together, and there's a border at the top and the bottom, but it goes all the way to the end. They're the same length, they're just different widths. So I'm just going to try to line that up and press that down. And then I'm going to bring my trimmer back so that we can score this. And we're going to, on the long side, we want to score at 1 3/4. And you probably want to go through that a couple times because you're going through 2 layers. And then we want to go at 2 inches. And then we're going to go at 1/6 and 1/8. And 6 3/8. Okay, that's got all of our scoring done. I'm gonna set that aside and I'm gonna move this out of the way. Now we're ready to put together some of our other pieces. So let me bring these pieces in. Now we can go ahead and mount. We don't want to glue. Let's start with the squares for the belly band, get those out of the way. We don't want to glue the 2 rich razzleberry together yet, but we can go ahead and put our Highland Heather piece on our one of the rich razzleberries. So I'm just going to go ahead and put some liquid glue on the back of this. And I'm just going to adhere this to one of the squares for the belly band. I'm going to move the other one out of the way. And we're just going to put this down on this. And for this project, number one, the liquid glue is just really strong. But I also like it in case I get something that's not straight, I have time to move it. So we've got that ready for the belly band, and we're just going to set that out of the way. That's good to go. These are going to be for our white pieces that we're going to do some stamping on. So we're going to hold off on these for now. Then we're going to come to these other pieces. And we've got pieces to layer for the, these are going to be on the outside. So we need to layer all these pieces together. So you have a piece of the rich razzleberry, a piece of the Highland Heather, and a piece of the designer series paper, and you have 2 of these. So we're going to go ahead and put these together. And I usually like to line up on the long side. That just, for some reason, is easier for me to get it straight if I line up on the long side rather than the short side. Okay, then I'm going to put our designer series paper on here. Okay, this panel's done and we can set it aside. Now we'll go ahead with the next panel. We're just doing the same thing. We're just going to line this up. And we're going to add the designer series paper. Now it does not take big globs of glue. In fact, it'll squeeze out all over the place and you'll have a mess. So less is usually more with this liquid glue. Okay. I'm just going to press that down. There's our second panel. And then these are for the inside panels. And we're just going to put the designer series paper on the Highland Heather. So same thing, we're just going to put some liquid glue on the back of this. line that up, try to even that out. There's one. Now we're going to do the second one. And we're just going to put that down on there. Just like that, we've got those down. Now, if you remember, we had 6 of these little rectangles. We had 6 of the matte and 6 of the Designer Series paper. Now, I've already put together 5 of them, but I wanted to do one on camera just so you could see it's a real easy process. But I wanted to just show one, and I have the others already glued together, so you don't have to sit and watch me do that. So it's the same process. I'm just putting some liquid glue on the back of my rectangle, and then I'm just going to adhere that to the mat. And the same thing with the little squares. We have 8 of these. I've already done the other 7, but I'm just going to do one on camera so that you can just see what I did. Just put that on there and then just move it. Again, with the liquid glue, you have a little time to move it to get it centered. Okay, so I've got all 8 of those ready. I've got 6 of the other ones. Now we're ready to put things together. So on one of them that's going to be in the inside of our card, let me bring that back and show you. We want to stamp Just Thinking of You Today, but we want to do it towards the lower right because we want to build our flowers around that. Okay, so we want to give ourselves plenty of room. So I'll bring in my foam mat, and I'm doing that in black Memento ink. So it's just Thinking of You Today, and I'm going to ink this up. And you always want to look at it, make sure you got it good and inked, and you can tell if there's areas that you don't have, especially with newer stamps that you're just using, you want to make sure you get good coverage. Okay, that looks pretty good. And I want to put this down towards the lower right hand corner so I can build my flowers around it. Okay, that's got that done. So that panel's ready. And then we're just going to do the tulips in the other, on the piece for the back, okay? And we're going to do it in the lower left. So I'm using for that, we have the little bud, and then we have the outside of the bud. We're going to start with the inside, the littler piece, and I'm using Highland Heather and Rich Razzleberry. So I'm going to start with the Highland Heather, and I'm going to stamp twice. I'm going to stamp the first time at full strength, and then I'm going to turn it and stamp again without re-inking because I wanted one darker and one lighter. That was what I was going for. So I'm just going to ink this up. And I'm going to put one a little tilted this way. And then I'm just going to flip it and just stamp again without re-inking. And you can see it's a much lighter tulip. And that's what I wanted. I like doing that. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with the Rich Razzleberry. I'm going to ink it up. This is the outside of the tulip. I call them buds, I don't know. And I'm just going to line this up. I'm going to stamp that, and then I'm just going to flip it and stamp over that without re-inking. And that gives me my 2 different types of, 2 different colors of tulip buds using the same ink pads. So Move this stuff out of the way. And then we're ready to go ahead. We can go ahead and mount these on the Highland Heather squares. Okay? So then we can have that done. So I'm just adding the liquid glue on the back of the basic white piece. Going to center this on here. Just like that. Set that out of the way. We're going to do the same thing for our inside piece. And we're just going to line this up. And that'll be ready to build our tulips on. So we got that done. So now I'm going to bring back in my card base, and we're not going to fold it just yet, but we're going to go ahead and put on some of our panels. So the first one that I put on was this little inside piece. And if you need to just crease it a little bit, just so you know what lines you're going between, you can do that. Because it's a dark cardstock, it can be a little hard to see. It just depends on what color your cardstock is. It might be easier on a lighter color. I'm just going to put some liquid glue on the back of this, and I want to put it right in between those fold lines. Okay. And then I'm going to put the other one on the other side. Again, putting them between those fold lines. So now we're ready to go ahead and put on our little rectangles and our little squares, and we're just going to be adding each of these on with our liquid glue. So I'm just going to start up here. And you can see it just fits in between the folds, just like that. Just like that. And I will speed the video up through this process so that, I mean, you don't need to watch me glue all these down. So I am going to speed things up. Okay, now we've got all those pieces on, and this piece is going to attach just like this, but it's only going to attach on the purple parts, with the parts without, so this is going to fold, and we're just going to play with these folds a little bit so that we can get them to fold in the right way. And we can burnish them once we get the folds in place. So you're going with, this one's a mountain, and then you got a valley, mountain, valley. So we're just going to do that same thing with the other side. I always like to try to give them a little crease before I try to fold it all together. Okay, and there we've got the folds. And I'm going to go ahead and just do some burnishing of these folds just to help it lay flatter. Okay. And then we're just going to put some liquid glue on this plain cardstock. This is my rich razzleberry. And the piece that we have done up that's going to go on here is just going to line up on this, on the edge. So just line up the edges and then press that down. And then we're just going to repeat the same thing over on the other edge. We want to make sure our patterns are going the right way. And I'm going to just, again, lining this up on the edge and pressing that down. Okay. So we've got the belly band left, and we've got our pieces to put in the middle and on the back. We can go ahead and put the piece on the back. And we want to make sure, so I'm going to just put some liquid glue on this piece. And then if you noticed at the beginning of the video, I pointed out that I had that. I've since fixed it, but I ended up getting this piece on upside down. So I'm going to check, make sure which way my flowers are going. And that will help me know that this has to go like this. So I'm just going to center this in here and press that down. Now we're going to go ahead and work with our tulips and get those put together. So we have bring in all of our pieces that we have here. almost all of them. One more piece, there it is. And so that's got all of our pieces. So we can start with putting our tulips together. So these pieces with the kind of interesting hook there, it's going to fold right on that little hook. So I'm going to start by putting a little liquid glue on the bottom of my inside bud. And I'm going to glue the medium-sized piece right on top of that. And these really go together pretty easy. So I'm just going to turn that over so I can see that I've got them lined up at the bottom. I'm just going to hold that there for a minute. And then this piece gets tucked inside of here, just like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is glue this piece down, and then we'll glue the other part shut. So I'm just going to put some liquid glue on the back of this. And it just fits right in here. And this is going to just close over it like that. And you can play with it if you want the angles different. Again, the liquid glue gives you that little bit of ability to play with it a little bit. And then I'm just going to open this up and put a little bit of liquid glue on the back of this. And then I'm just going to close that up. Now, if you wanted, you could, instead of gluing them flat, you could like curl them a little bit to give them a little more dimension. You could definitely do that. So I'm just going to repeat the process. Just putting a little glue at the bottom of my bud. Then I'm coming back in with the medium piece. And I'm gluing the bottoms together, lining it up at the bottom. And just playing with that a little, and I'm going to turn it over and see what it looks like. That looks pretty good. And then I want to go ahead and get this fold. And then I'm going to glue this inside. I'm just putting my liquid glue on the back of my pieces. And then we're just going to, I just always like, before I glue the front piece down, I always close it and see if I want to do something different with the way I tilt the flower. And that looks good to me. So then I'm going to open this back up and just put a little bit of liquid glue on these pieces. And then we're ready to pop this shut. And press these down. And then we have both of our flowers made. So now we're ready to put this on our, to go ahead and put it on our piece that's going to go in the inside. And this is where you get to play a little. You can decide, I always lay it out first before I start gluing so I can determine how I want everything to go. And you can trim these stems if you need to once you get them on. And so I'm using one going one direction and one going, the curve going the other direction. I'm just hiding that in between there. And you can put them right up against each other. You can lay them a little farther apart. Just play with your design. And you could use more leaves, less leaves, however you want to do it. And I think I like the stems a little closer together. So I'm going to start by putting my stems down. So I'm just going to put some liquid glue on the back of my stem. Just like that. And I want the other one to curve the other direction. So I'm just going to put those like that. And I'm going to use the smaller leaf on this side because that's where my greeting is. So I'm just going to go in here and glue this down. Just like that. And then I'm going to just glue the other one on the other side. I'm just playing with the leaf to see how I think it looks best, and I think it looks best like this. So I'm just going to put it like that. Just going to put more liquid glue. And I'm going to go ahead and trim these stems off because we're done with that part of it. So I'm just trimming those little portions off. And then I'm ready to just put my flowers on there. Again, just coming in with the liquid glue. Now, if you wanted to, you could definitely just stamp these and they would be flatter. It's all in whatever look you want for the inside of your card. I'm just pressing those down. Now we're ready to put this right in here like this. So just more liquid glue. I'm just going to center this in here and press it down. Now I'm just going to set this aside while we work on our belly band. Here's the square that's going to go on the front of the belly band, and then we have the back piece. But I want to go ahead and start working on my windmill. So I've got these 3 pieces that I'm going to be using. And I'm also going to need, these are round and square brads. And there's black and white ones in here, so you could do whichever one you wanted. I am going to look at them a little bit. The round ones are they're really small. Let me see if I can, here's what the square one looks like. And here's what the round one looks like. So you have your choice of either type of brad that you can use on the windmill. I liked the bigger one, so I'm going to use that. Okay, so the first step, I'm just going to put some glue on the back of the Early Espresso detailed piece. I want to just put my liquid glue on the back of here. And I just went mainly for the solid pieces, solid portions of it, because I figured if those were held down, then the rest of it's going to pretty well. And I just kind of put dots of glue in little places. I did not even attempt to put glue on every part of this. Just enough to hold it down. Just like that. And I'm going to flip this over. And just line that up on the edges. And press that down. Now the blades, or the windmill portion, it has the center is cut out for the brad. But on our actual windmill piece, the detailed is cut out, but the solid piece underneath is not. So I just took my take your pick tool and I just came in there and poked a hole. And that's going to allow my brad to go through that. It's really easy to punch. So then I'm just going to line this up. And then my brad just goes through. Just like that. Now, if you're, you can either turn the brad so that the points aren't showing. If you have points that are showing, I found that it was, I really had to work with it to get it where the pieces of the brad weren't showing out the side. And since this is going to be glued down, I really wasn't too worried about sharp edges on it. So what I did is I came in with my scissors and I just trimmed these. I just cut them like that. And then I press them down. And that way I didn't have pieces sticking off, sticking outside of it, just like that. And so this is ready to be glued right on there, right on our front piece. Now I'm not going to glue that down. I want to get the band put together before I glue that down. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to close our card and I'm going to come in with the belly band. And remember we had those folds in it. And so you want to just crease it on your folds. So you have two fairly close folds. It's going to just give you a little bit of to handle the bulk of the card. And I'm doing that on both sides. I'm just creasing my folds. And then I'm going to put my card inside of it. Now, this is not meant to close all the way because I have this other piece that's going to go right here. So I'm just working on getting it centered. And just remember when you glue this together, a couple things, little tips to help you, tricks. You want these sides, I don't know if you can see that, but you want those to be square and not pressed in like that. That's going to give you a better sliding action off your card. So make sure that those are squared up and not collapsed, okay? So I'm going to come back in with my square that's going underneath, and I want to kind of center it. So I'm looking top to bottom, I'm looking side to side to figure out how I want this to go on here. I want it centered in both directions. And you just got to play with it a little bit. I think that looks pretty good. Yep, I'm happy with that. So I am going to put some liquid glue, and I want to keep it fairly close to the end. I don't want to go too far inward. And I'm just going to bring this back and line it back up with the other side that I kept in place. Just like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to open that up, put a liquid glue on the side, and then I'm just going to shut this back. Again, I'm not pulling these super tight because I don't want them to be super tight, because I want to be able to pull it off. So I'm just pressing this here and letting the glue do its thing, and that's going to allow it to slide. Okay? If you go to slide it and it's catching, that means one of these back squares, you just need to hold that in. Okay? Now, we're just going to glue the other piece right on top, lining up the rich razzleberry squares. Okay? So again, just coming in with some liquid glue. And I'm going to line these squares up. And then press that down. And then the only thing left to do is to glue this down. Now I glued, trying to think, I popped mine up with dimensionals, so that's what I'm going to do with this as well. I wanted to have that so that the brad wasn't all the way down in case you did want to turn the blades. So I am going to use some dimensionals, and I'll tell you that for this, on the side of your dimensionals, you have these little trim pieces that you don't use. I use it for stuff like this. So I just tore a piece of this off. And just lined this up on one side. And I can always trim that if I need to, or tear it so that it doesn't show. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm just going to use it works the same way as the dimensionals, and I feel like I'm not wasting as much because I'm still getting use out of this. So I'm just going to put this just like that. And then I'm ready to come in and peel all my paper parts off. Just like that. And I'm going to turn it over, make sure you can't see any on the side, and you can't. So we're good to go with that. So then I'm just going to figure out, just center this on your square, figure out where you want it. That looks pretty good to me, so I'm just going to press it down there. And we have the card done. So your double trifold with your belly band, you just pull this off. You open it up, there's your tulips that you made, and there's your back part to write your message on. And then you just fold it back up. Just like that. And you slide this inside. Now, you could, instead of, if you would prefer, instead of the belly band, you could use ribbon to hold it closed. And what you could do is you could glue your ribbon between this white piece and the cardstock underneath. You could have your ribbon glued down there and coming out, and then bring it around and tie it. So that would be another option if you didn't want to do the belly band. I hope you enjoy this. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button and then the little notification bell, and you'll be notified every time I upload a video. Be sure to check me out on Facebook. I have a group and a page, Karen's Cards and More, and I'll be back with you to craft again soon.